We're starting Be'ez Hashem Siman Chav Ches of Maamar Shevuos, and the Indian is the Shevuos Shelo Yidchaku Kates, and Rashi says it means to be Marva B'Tachanunim. So now the Rebbe is going to bring down from the Yirmiyahu Moshe what he says about this Shvuah. Ukedusha Zikni Zichron Elechai Olam Haba Befirish Tefillah Moshe. The Yirmiyahu Moshe in the beginning of Chav Ches, in his Pirshan Tehillim, which is called Tefillah Moshe, Al Tehillim, Al Pasuk Shav Lachem Mashkimei Kum. The Pasuk says that it's vain for you people who get up early, Me'achrei Shevuos, who sit late, Oichle Lechem Vatzavim, and they eat the bread of sadness. So, this Moshe says, Amar al Shvuah Zu. He mentions in the course of discussing this pasuk, he mentions the shvuah not to force the end. The diak she'eno move on Pirush Rashi Zal. He asks that Rashi's pshat is very difficult to understand. Why? Because shaloi bira gavul shel bakashas rachamim. Rashi says that the shvuah means not to pray too much for the geula. So the question is, what's the limit? Where do you draw the line? Therefore, he says a different pshat from Rashi. That the pshat in Shelo Yidchaku Kates means to force the hour, meaning to force by doing action to try to cause the geula to come. Shabtai Tzvi movement, right? Shabtai Tzvi and his followers.
Well, they made their own methods, not forceful methods, but their own ritualistic methods to bring Mashiach.
Right, either ritualistic methods, or in the case of Shabtai Tzvi, there was a little bit of action.
A forceful methods with weapons?
He didn't actually do it, but there were rumors that he was going to do it. There were people that said that that he's going to go, and eventually, after a certain point is reached in the movement, he's going to go take over the Sultan's kingdom. Okay, he didn't say it himself necessarily, but people did say it at the time.
He would fight to get the Sultan to take Palestine from the Sultan?
Yeah, well, people said that. I don't know if he himself said it again, but maybe Nassan, the Navi, said it, the false Navi that supported him. I don't know exactly who said it, but people in his movement said it.
I see.
It's like right?
Yeah, he says he machshmoy on him. Because he led Yidden into Apikorsis and Kfir and Shmad. And after he passed away, he died, whatever, for 100 years afterwards, there was a movement that plagued European Jewry,
He's still in Mashiach.
The Frankist?
Right. The Frankist movement, but even before the Frankist movement, there were people who were secret Shabtai Tzvi followers.
Dunmer?
The Dunmer are the people that were the people who had converted to Islam. That's the Dunmer. But in Europe, there were people who acted like regular Jews, and secretly they would have meetings, and they would be over aveiros on purpose, just to show that it's Yimoisa Mashiach, stuff like that. And there were Kabbalah Sfarim written that are treif, they're full of fear, and they're dressed up like Kabbalah Sfarim. So
that's what the Frankists were.
The Frankists were kind of like a little different. I don't know.
I think they also outward Jewish, but inside they.
Right, but eventually they converted to Christianity. Frankists.
I think some of them were outwardly.
Okay. Anyway, so shelo yoichezu atzmam behevel koydem biyasa. They shouldn't grab on to empty and purposeless things before the coming of Mashiach, and try to do things that are going to bring the geula. Why? Ki arishayim hamakdimim behevel. Those Rishayim who do try to go early and do something hevel avolim to try to bring it. Heim garmu arichas galus. They, on the contrary, they cause the galus to be longer. Because they cause terrible things to happen to Yidden, and they cause Yidden to do aveiros, and therefore, upirish b'zeh akasiv. Now we get back to the pasuk. Shav lachem mashkimei kum. It's vain for you who try to bring the geula early. Shehem mashkimim hakum. They make early the arising of the Jewish people. Haroy mezal geula. This word kum is a hint to the geula. Why? Because it says kum besulas Yisrael. The pasuk in Amos that it says nafla lo yisoisiv kum besulas Yisrael. Right, getting up, arising from galus is called kum. B'sheker of a hevel, but through their lies and their hevel, their emptiness, they tried to bring the Bias HaMashiach Kodem Zmanoi, before its time. V'alidei zeh me'achrim Shevuos. That's the hemshech of the pasuk. Me'achrei Shevuos. They prolong the resting. What do you mean? Ki ma'arichim ha'galus. They lengthen the galus and they make it that the real rest, the real menucha, the real gula will come later. They eat the bread of sadness. Ki b'tisha b'av hakol misanim umisablim v'atzevim ala churban. On Tisha B'av, the same day that everyone is sad and everyone's fasting over the churban, hey moichlim usmechim. This movement, the Shabbos Phoenix, they used to eat on Tisha B'av.
Well, there are actually some extreme Zionists who actually rejoice on Tisha B'av. Some.
Really?
Yeah, there are some, a big amount. There are some who say that they're pointing no more in Tisha B'av, so we already have the redemption.
Really? People who are firm in other respects, but they
modern type. Like
but saying they keep halacha besides it?
Yeah, keep halacha.
They keep halacha, but when it comes to Tisha B'av, they eat. Wow, I didn't know.
There are even some Lubavitchers who do that. There are some extreme Mishichis who do that.
Okay.
I mean, you can't trust Mishichis anyhow, but you can tell there are some who actually rejoice on Tisha B'av.
I think Yitzchak Ben Tzvi came from a Sabbatina family. That's why he chose the name Ben Tzvi, because usually, like Ben Gurion is green. Ben Tzvi's name was like Shmulevich or something.
So why did he pick that?
He said because of Shabbatai Tzvi, and I think some Zionist writers even praised Shabbatai Tzvi as being a proto-Zionist. That's what I read. He came from.
Okay. The Siyam al Zeh, and the Yismach Moshe finishes off. Shezeh Remez Amiti, Sheramas David HaMelech Olav Hashem Ruach Kadshay. This remez that we just said in the pasuk in Tehillim is a true remez that for sure David HaMelech had this in mind with his Ruach HaKodesh when he wrote this pasuk. Yuyin Sham. Hinei bazeh Ruach HaKodesh Hofia bebeis midrashay. That the Yismach Moshe here had a Ruach HaKodesh because even though he's talking about something that happened in his time, the Shabbos Phoenix, but his words apply equally to the Zionist movement. Why? She'oichlim lechem v'atzavim, she'oichlim b'Tisha B'av. Those people who eat on Tisha B'av, ve'enam mis'ablim al churban. They think that the gula has come. They think it's the aschalta the gula, and they're not mourning over the churban anymore. Umashkimim lahavi gulas the gula l'Yisrael. They bring the gula too early. Koyim azman hema hama achrim Shevuos. They are the ones who prolong the galus. Shemarichim ha-galus b'avon the Rabbi. Kasher yispar mizeh oid lahalan. They bring more proofs to this later. U'pirushai shepirish b'masha amar shelo yitchakus hakates. The Yismach Moshe's pshat in the Shevuos shelo yitchakus hakates. Hu pirushai shel Rambam. It's the same as the Rambam's pshat that we said. The Rambam in the Igeres Teman, at the end of Igeres Teman, says that the Jews shouldn't arise from their exile and try to force it before the end. Umashmo is divrei midrashim. That's also the midrashim that we brought. That the midrashim say that Ben Koziva's movement was an example of this, and Bnei Ephraim was an example. Any kind of movement that does an action. But this doesn't explain Rashi, because Rashi's talking about just plain tefillah, right? Not action. Uviyismach Moshe nidfas al shir shirim kasav b'divrei Rashi ho'elu. So there's another Yismach Moshe now who talks about Rashi itself, and he says like this: V'zel l'shoynoi masha amru razal hishbiya HaKadosh Baruch Hu es Yisrael shelo yidchukus hakates hu mishulo havana. He says, I don't understand what this other shvua is here, not to force the end. Mahu dechikus hakates. What does it mean? To ha'amar acher kach shelo yalu Yisrael b'chayma. It can't mean immigration to Eretz Yisrael, because that's included in the other shvua. Not to go up to Eretz Yisrael as a wall. And if you're going to say like Rashi, that it means not to daven too much, then the kasha is even bigger. What's the limit? What's the right amount of tefillah and what's too much? If there's really such an isser not to daven too much, then we should find it in the Gemara and the Rambam and Poskim. They should say a clear shiur to this. They should say, at least they should say not to do it. You don't find the halacha anywhere. Okay? So it seems to me, he brings the Mefarshim. I don't know which Mefarshim he means here, but he says these Mefarshim explain the pasuk that you should fear Hashem. Oisoi tavoid, oisoi savoid, him you should serve. Uvoi sidbak, and in him you should stick, you should cling to him. Uvishmoi tishaveya, and swear by his name. Upirish Rashi zal, im yesh b'cha kol amidas ha'elu, if you have all these qualities, then atarashe li shav b'shmoi, then you're allowed to swear with Hashem's name. Right? In other words, even swearing truthfully is not stam azach, anybody should just do. It's something that you have to be on the madrega to do. So if you're on the madrega of Yiras Hashem and Avos Hashem, boy sidbak, then, alright, then you could also swear by his name truthfully. Okay, now, upirshu, the Mefarshim, these Mefarshim that the Yismach Moshe quotes here, I don't know who they are, they explain, Al pi Shevuos Eliyahu, im yih hashanim oelu talamoter. That Eliyahu Navi said, I swear, he said, Chai Hashem, that there won't be any rain until I say so. And then for 2.5 years, I think there was no rain.
Right, there was a famine in Eretz Yisrael.
Right, because of Achav, and then eventually he went to Har Carmel, and they made the Mizbech, and everyone said Hashem Hu Elokim. So that was a shvuah. So Eliyahu didn't know for a fact that it wasn't going to rain. He made a shvuah, and Hashem listened to him. He said that it's not going to rain. So it's like causing something to happen with a shvuah. That kind of shvuah is the shvuah that you can't make unless you're on the madrega of Eliyahu Navi. Oy shvuas chayni amagal. Right? The chayni amagal made a circle, and he said, I'm swearing not to come out of this circle until you make rain. Shezeh ein rashay lasois. Not everybody could do such a thing. Rak mish yesh boy kol amidas hoelu. Only someone who has all these qualities could do it. Oz yesh loy reshus. Then he has permission to make such a shvuah. The vade make him dvar vadav. That such a person, Hashem will fulfill his words. Va'atzas malach of yashlim. A person like a malach, Hashem will listen to him and do what he says. Achein zulas zeh have a shvuah shav. But if a regular person just makes a shvuah like that, it's like a vain oath. That's what the shvuah means, not to force to end. The hainu hani b'nei aliyah. That such people like Eliyahu and Chayni Amagal shouldn't make shvuahs al pi shvuah ad kan l'shoyin. Yeah. Okay. Ein zeh kasav gam chasam sofer. The Chasam Sofer also says this similar pshat in the words of Rashi. Likutei Shalosh Shuvasim and Pei Vav. I copied it over here on page 1. Look at it in a second. Shaloi lasois k'moi she'asa Rabbi Yosef del Arena. This is that legend that we talked about before, that there was this person, a Makubal, around the year 1470 in Tzfas, who tried to bring Mashiach al yidei hashpois, but he did these kind of shvuos, and he forced malachim to appear, and he told them what should I do, and then they told him what to do next, and he went from step to step until the end of the story. According to the legend, Satan was in chains, and then he took the Satan and he let him smell some besamim. According to one version of the story, he actually brought the Ketores and was maktir it to the Satan, and Hashem punished him, and Hashem threw him out, and the whole thing ended.
Right, but I doubt the story. It doesn't sound real.
It doesn't sound too real, right? It sounds like it was embellished. Whatever the story really happened.
Maybe he claimed going to bring Mashiach, and people start making up false stories. Look what our game will do is going to bring us Mashiach finally. Yeah.
Okay. But just to daven is mutter to daven whatever tefillah you want. Now look at the Chasam Sofer here. I just copied it off just to see it. He says that he's going against the reform here, the early reformers who said not to daven too much for the geula, and some of them brought down the shvuah shelo yidchu chesaketz. These reformers, right? So he says here, umasha kasev Rashi shili ksubas. This the Rashi says in the end of ksubas, befer shelo yidchu chesaketz shelo laharbos betfila shelo laharbos. So the Rashi says not to daven too much. So if the Chasam Sofer, no, shelo laharbois daika. You have to be medaik Rashi's words. It means only to daven too much. Kegoin Yosef del Arena v'chadoyme. Aval hispala b'chol yoim choyvos alein. Daven every day for the gula. That's a choyva on us. V'hamru Chazal. So he goes on and on that it's a chiyuv to daven.
Right, it's only what Chazal gave us. We don't make our own tefillah for Gula.
You mean daven from Mashiach, but not like B'chia Bana or something?
Oh, so that's going to be the Rebbe's shot in the next Siman.
I mean, don't make up your own tefillah, just daven for Mashiach.
Yeah, but that can't be either, because we see throughout history, Yidden have made up more and more tefillos about Mashiach. You see the Slichas, the Piyutim, they're all made up later, right? They're not from Chazal.
I see.
Okay, so it's interesting that the Rebbe copies it over. He puts a reish in front of Rabbi Yosef Del Reina. I don't know. The Chassam Sofer doesn't have that reish. It just says Yosef Del Reina.
Yeah, because he wasn't a rabbi.
He wasn't a rabbi. He wasn't a tzaddik. According to the Meister, he ended up as being a Rosh Gomer. But
I see.
anyway, Af Shezen Nochoin. Dr. Rebbe, this could be pshat in the Gemara, but it's not pshat in Rashi. He says, Af Shezen Nochoin b'pirish divrei hashas shelo yidchachus hakes. Aval b'loshen Rashi zal kosh l'ham b'iseh. To say this is a pshat in Rashi is very, very shver. Shekoster shelo yarbu b'tachanunim. Rashi says the word tachanunim.
Not tefillah.
Prayer, right?
No, time is supplication, not
supplication. All right, but it doesn't mean these kind of things, like forcing Mashiach to come with Shevuos, and that doesn't mean that. It means supplication, begging. Rashi doesn't say anything about Shevuos. Ella tachanunim be'alma. Alma shegam be'tachanunim bilvad yesh gvul. You see, even with prayer, there's some point where you're not allowed to do it. V'adayin kasha tuva mahu agvul. What is that point? Most of the tefillos have something to do with it, with galus and gula. You see the long tachanun and the end of Shmon Esrei. Most tefillos have something about that in it. But tzaddikim master nafsham b'tefillosim al gula. Tzaddikim davened a lot for the gula. They were moiser nefesh. They devoted themselves to it. Ad kolois hanefesh. Umahu ashir shenichnes bichlal iser hashvua. What is the limit? Okay.